3 weeks before she disappeared, Lynette Hooker bought a one-way ticket home to Michigan. She never used it. Her daughter says she knows exactly why. And what Lynette told her closest friend in private messages, now sitting in a federal evidence file, is what this entire investigation comes down to. There is a piece of paper, or more precisely, a digital record, sitting inside a federal evidence file that no public statement, no attorney briefing, and no account delivered at the edge of a boatyard at 4 in the morning can explain away. It is a one-way airline ticket. Destination, Michigan. Purchased by Lynette Ruth Hooker in the weeks before she disappeared. One direction, no return flight, no round trip, one way, home. She never used it. On the night of April 4th, 2026, Lynette Hooker stepped into an 8-foot dinghy in the dark water off Elbow Cay in the Abaco Islands, Bahamas. The man beside her was her husband of more than 20 years. The sailboat they were heading toward, the vessel named Soulmate, was anchored 2.5 miles across open water. By Brian Hooker's account, she never got there. By the physical evidence recovered from that vessel, something did. This documentary is about a woman who had made a decision, who had communicated that decision to the people closest to her, who had written it down in private messages that are now in the hands of federal investigators, who had purchased evidence of that decision in the form of a ticket that points in one direction and one direction only, away from the water, away from the boat, away from the man she told her closest friend she could no longer be out there with. This is the story the one-way ticket tells, and it is the story that neither competitor coverage nor Brian Hooker's public statements have been able to close. Lynette Ruth Hooker was born in 1970 in River Grove, Illinois. She grew up between Illinois and Michigan, near lakes and waterways, on boats, swimming. Her mother, Darlene Hamlet, told investigators directly, "We grew up on water." For Lynette, the ocean was never a lifestyle she adopted. It was something she came from. She built a career before she ever stepped on a sailboat full-time. Telecommunications, Michigan Bell, then Ameritech, then SBC Telecom. Steady, skilled, precise work in an industry that required understanding how systems connect, how signals travel, how information moves from one point to another without getting lost. She was good at it, and she was good on the water. Both things were true. Her first marriage was to a man named Rick Ellsworth. That relationship lasted approximately 5 years. In 1997, their daughter Carly was born. When Carly was 3 years old, Lynette married Brian Hooker. From that point forward, Brian was the man Carly grew up calling her stepfather. She confirmed the timeline herself in an interview with WZZM 13. "My mom and Brian have been married since I was 4. I've known Brian for 25 years. 25 years of proximity. 25 years of knowing exactly what a relationship looks like from the inside." Carly did not need an investigative file to tell her what she had witnessed. She had witnessed it firsthand for more than 2 decades. Lynette's close friend Rachel Shaw described her to investigators and media as completely at home on the water. Capable, experienced, physically strong, a swimmer who had been near water her entire life. Not a passenger in the sailing life she and Brian documented on their YouTube channel, The Sailing Hookers, an active participant in it. Over a decade of open ocean passages, island hopping, blue water navigation. Someone who understood the difference between manageable conditions and dangerous ones and had the experience to navigate between them. That is who Lynette Hooker was, a woman with a career, a daughter, a skill set built across decades on open water, and a private record, written in her own words, sent to the people she trusted most, that tells a very different story from the one their YouTube channel showed. The public version of Lynette and Brian Hooker's life was documented in real time on YouTube and social media. Their routes, their repairs, their passages, the ordinary texture of life lived continuously at sea, clean, documented, and real. The private version is also documented, and it is also real. In private messages obtained by CBS News, Lynette wrote to someone she trusted. The precise date of those messages was not confirmed by CBS, but their existence was verified. They were written. They were sent. They are now part of the evidentiary record being reviewed alongside the devices seized from the Soulmate. What she wrote was this: "It was real bad. I can't be out there with him." Those are not the words of a woman having a bad week on the water. Those are not the words of a temporary conflict between two people who spend too much time in a confined space. Those are the words of someone who had made an assessment, a serious, considered assessment, about her safety and her situation, and had communicated that assessment to the people closest to her. In January 2024, Lynette told a close friend she and Brian had decided to separate. She said she was not going back. That separation lasted weeks. In February 2024, they reconciled and returned to the water together. That reconciliation is documented. What followed it over the next 14 months, across the digital record those seized devices contain, is what investigators are now piecing together. And in the weeks before April 4th, 2026, Lynette did one final documented thing. She purchased a one-way ticket home to Michigan. Not a round trip, not an open-ended return. One direction, home. She never used it. Her last social media post was March 29th, 2026. A short clip. Rain. Choppy water near Marsh Harbor. Light in tone. Conversational. Nothing in it telegraphed what 5 days later would look like. That is often how these cases work. The last public moment is ordinary. The private record tells a different story. 5 days after that post, Lynette Ruth Hooker was gone. Investigators do not begin where a subject wants them to begin. They go back. They pull records. They submit Freedom of Information Act requests. They contact prior jurisdictions. They build a timeline that extends far behind the incident date. In this case, what was already behind that date stretched back more than 2 decades, and it was already in the public record. Brian Hooker was born approximately 4 years before Lynette, placing him at 58 years old at the time of her disappearance. He came from the same professional world she did, telecommunications. He founded Hooker Communications LLC in Michigan. In 2020, they sold their Kentwood home and committed fully to the water. They bought a Morgan 461 sailboat, built in 1980, previously used for charters in the Virgin Islands. They named it the Soulmate. From the outside, it looked like exactly what they said it was. 2 people, 1 boat, open water. But investigators did not start from the outside. They started from the documented record. And the documented record began not in 2026, not even in 2015, but in 2005, inside a family home in Kentwood, Michigan, during a visit from Brian's children from his prior marriage. A dispute arose that visit, connected, according to police reports obtained by WZZM 113 through a Freedom of Information Act request, to the children's homeschooling. What followed that argument is documented through the statements of child witnesses present in the home. Those reports state that Brian became upset, pursued a child upstairs, and made physical contact with the child in the neck area. Brian wrote an email to his ex-wife after that night. WZZM 13 obtained it. In it, Brian described what happened in his own language, that there had been a spirited argument and that he had, in his own phrasing, dragged the child back to the table to discuss. That email was not obtained through a leak. It was Brian's own written account of that evening, in his own words. A formal report of actual or suspected child abuse was completed and referred to the Michigan Family Independence Agency. Detective Michelle Clark of the Kentwood Police Department documented the case and noted the investigation was flagged as incomplete before the file could be formally closed. In 2006, a Kent County jury heard the case. Brian Hooker was acquitted. He was not convicted. That is the legal outcome, and it stands completely. The acquittal is the conclusion of that legal process and must be stated as such. What also stands is the documentation. The records did not disappear because the jury returned a not guilty verdict. They remained in the public record, they remained accessible, and they were on investigators' desks before a single question was asked in April 2026. Then forward 9 years, February 2015, Kentwood, Michigan. 1 in the morning, police were called to the Hooker family home. Both Brian and Lynette gave contradictory accounts. Brian told responding officers Lynette had struck him multiple times in the face. Officers documented his nose as red, swollen, and actively bleeding. A named witness told officers she had heard a commotion upstairs and watched Brian go up and return with a bloody nose, an account that aligned with Brian's version of the physical sequence. Lynette told officers a different story. She stated that Brian had struck her in the forehead. She also made a statement, subsequently reported by CNN, which noted it could not independently confirm it with law enforcement, that Brian had applied forceful pressure to her neck area during the incident. Of the 2 people present, only Lynette was arrested. She spent a night in county jail on a charge of assault and battery. A prosecutor subsequently reviewed the case, determined there was insufficient evidence to establish who had initiated physical contact, and did not pursue the charges. The case was dismissed. No conviction resulted for either party. Those are the legal outcomes, stated fully and clearly. What is also part of the record is what Carly told Fox News in her own words, attributed directly to her. Not a legal finding, but a documented testimony from someone with 25 years of direct proximity. There is a history of him physically harming her and threatening to throw her overboard. So the fact that this is actually happening makes me believe there is more to the story. Brian's attorneys have categorically denied those allegations. That denial is on the record. But place those words, throw her overboard, against the specific circumstance of how Lynette Hooker died, and the question Carly is asking is not rhetorical. It is forensic. On the evening of April 3rd, the night before Lynette vanished, the Hookers were at the Abaco Inn on Elbow Cay. A bartender there, identified by Fox News as Ken, served the couple rum and cokes across approximately 2.5 hours. When Brian's account became public the following day, Ken told the New York Post something that had stayed with him. He said the math didn't add up. It shouldn't have taken 8 to 10 hours to get somewhere only 4 miles away. He said plainly, "It's weird." Ken had no stake in the investigation, no connection to either party. He simply knew the water, and the geography, to him, did not fit the account. Fox News confirmed the couple had also been drinking on the evening of April 4th, both evenings documented. Here is Brian Hooker's account of April 4th, stated here as his account, not independently confirmed fact. At approximately 7:30 in the evening, he and Lynette departed the Abaco Inn dock in their 8-foot hard-bottom dinghy. Their destination was the Soulmate, anchored in Annett's Bay on Elbow Cay, approximately 2.5 miles across the Sea of Abaco. Neither was wearing a life jacket, consistent with what their own sailing videos documented as their regular practice on short dinghy runs. 10 minutes into the crossing, Brian says, winds climbed above 20 knots. Conditions shifted, and Lynette went into the water just before full darkness. As she went in, he says, she took the engine's safety lanyard with her, the cord designed to cut motor power automatically when the operator is no longer at the controls. That lanyard detail requires a pause. The safety lanyard is designed for the operator, the person at the controls, the person driving the boat. Brian was always the one who drove the dinghy, confirmed across his own accounts and every documented sailing practice the couple ever recorded. Lynette's daughter Carly put the question directly to CNN with precision. Why would Lynette have been holding the key? No public statement from Brian or his legal team has satisfactorily answered that. By Brian's account, he fired flares. No vessel stopped. He paddled through the dark with an oar. The current carried the dinghy approximately 4 miles toward Marsh Harbor. He made his way through thick bush on foot. He arrived at the edge of the boatyard at 4 o'clock in the morning. He did not broadcast a mayday. He did not activate an emergency channel on the marine radio. He did not flag a single vessel in waters a local charter captain described as regularly trafficked, even well after dark. The first report of Lynette missing came not from open water, it came from land. At 4 o'clock in the morning, 8.5 hours after he says she went into the sea. There is a moment in every investigation where an account stops being a story and starts being a problem. Not because of what it contains, but because of what it contradicts. In Brian Hooker's case, that moment arrived not through a forensic breakthrough, it arrived through his own words. When Brian spoke to Richard Cook, fire team lead at Hopetown Volunteer Fire and Rescue, one of the first responders, he stated he last saw Lynette swimming toward shore. When Brian wrote to his friend Daniel Danforth in Facebook messages, subsequently obtained by CBS News, he stated that Lynette had swum toward the sailboat as the wind blew them apart. Shore and sailboat are not variations of the same destination. They are separated by approximately 2.5 miles of open water across the Sea of Abaco. A person swimming toward one is moving directly away from the other. Two different directions. Same event, same man. Two different accounts given to two different people. Then there is the navigation data, because Brian himself created it and distributed it. A screenshot taken from the navigation application Navionics, Brian's own app on Brian's own device, was shared by Brian with friends in the days following Lynette's disappearance. CBS News obtained that screenshot. What it shows is the dinghy's tracked route across the Sea of Abaco, beginning at the Abaco Inn and heading toward Annette's Bay, where the Soulmate was anchored. And what it shows is a route that ends abruptly, near the southwestern turn, roughly halfway through the crossing. Not at the point Brian says Lynette went into the water. Not where he says the engine failed. Halfway, the route simply stops. Brian produced that screenshot. Brian shared it. And now it is in investigators' hands as a piece of digital evidence he voluntarily created and distributed before the full scope of the forensic process was apparent to him. Then there is the recorded call. Brian reached out to sailing friends Blaine and Munn Stevenson in the hours following the incident. He did not know Blaine had begun recording. In that call, preserved in full, Brian described Lynette bouncing off the dinghy in the sudden wind. He confirmed his phone was on him that night, though he said it could only make calls over Wi-Fi. He described firing flares. He said no one stopped. He used the phrase cascade of failures to characterize what happened, the same phrase that later appeared across multiple communications with different contacts. Blaine Stevenson later published that recording on his own YouTube channel after Brian was taken into custody, deliberately, so that Brian's words would be in the public record while Brian himself was unable to speak. Brian's phone was on him that night. He confirmed it himself in his own voice on a call he did not know was being preserved. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer told Newsweek directly that phone activity is where cases like this are made or broken. What that phone was doing between 7:30 in the evening and 4 o'clock in the morning is not a matter of theory. It is a matter of server records that exist independently of the physical device. Then there is the voicemail. On April 8th, 4 days after Lynette vanished, Brian left Carly a voicemail. He told her that Hopetown Search and Rescue had found a flotation device he had thrown to Lynette when she went into the water, and that the search could now focus on a smaller area. That voicemail introduced a specific physical detail, that he had thrown something to Lynette that had not featured with that precision in any prior public account. A physical action, a specific position relative to her at a specific moment, introduced 4 days later, in a voicemail. Carly received her first call from Brian approximately 24 hours after the incident, not immediately. She told CNN that Brian dropped the news on her and then began speaking again before suddenly ending the call. She described him as monotone and relaxed. That description has not left this case. Every investigation has a turning point. In the Lynette Hooker case, that turning point was not the arrest. It was not the recorded call. It was not the contradicting swim directions or the navigation screenshot that ends halfway. It was a watch. Lynette Hooker was photographed at the Abaco Inn on April 4, 2026. In that photograph, confirmed by investigators and verified across reporting by CBS News anchor Tony Dupuis and subsequent multi-outlet coverage, an Apple Watch is clearly visible on her left wrist. That image is time-stamped. It places that watch on Lynette's wrist at the moment she and Brian departed together in the dinghy. The same watch was found on the Soulmate. Brian's account requires that Lynette never reached the Soulmate. She went into the water mid-crossing, he says. The current separated them. He lost sight of her. He never boarded the Soulmate that night either, drifting to Marsh Harbor by his own account. So the question the watch places on the table is simple and forensic. How did it get there? There are a limited number of explanations. Investigators are aware of every one of them. They are testing each one against the physical and digital evidence recovered from that vessel. And here is what makes the watch different from every other piece of evidence in this case. An Apple Watch is not a passive object. It is a continuous data-generating device. It records heart rate in real time. It logs GPS coordinates. It tracks movement, activity, sleep, and cellular connectivity. It stores that data locally and syncs it, automatically, passively, without any deliberate action by the wearer, to Apple's servers through whatever Wi-Fi or cellular network it can reach, including a Starlink satellite terminal on an anchored sailboat. If Lynette's Apple Watch was active on the night of April 4th, that data exists somewhere in Apple's server infrastructure. Heart rate readings at specific timestamps, GPS coordinates logged at specific intervals, activity data that records whether the wearer was moving, still, or, at some point, no longer generating any signal at all. A legal process directed at Apple can compel the production of that data. Whether that process has been initiated is not something investigators have made public, but the capability exists. It is known, and it is the category of evidence in this case that is most specific to Lynette herself, not to the boat, not to Brian's account, not to any version of events delivered after the fact. To Lynette, to her body, to where she was and what was happening to her at specific moments on the night she disappeared. That data, if it exists, and if it has been compelled, tells investigators not what Brian says happened. It tells them what Lynette's own body recorded. On April 17th, 2026, the U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service executed a search warrant on the Soulmate. The operation was coordinated, documented, and legally authorized. Federal magistrates do not sign search warrants based on speculation. They sign them based on evidence. Evidence that already existed, already had weight, and was already pointing in a direction that required deeper forensic access. What investigators removed from that vessel was reported first by journalist Ashley Banfield and subsequently confirmed across CBS News, NBC News, Fox News, and CNN. 4 categories: a digital video recorder, digital tablets connected to the vessel's Starlink satellite internet system, cell phone-related equipment, and the Apple Watch. Start with the DVR. A digital video recorder on a sailing vessel is not casual equipment. It is intentional infrastructure. Someone purchased it, installed it, configured it to record what it recorded across what time window, and whether that recording was ever deleted or overwritten, and whether forensic technicians can recover what deletion attempted to remove, is exactly what the laboratory process is designed to determine. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer confirmed to Newsweek that DVR footage, if recoverable, would be among the most significant pieces of evidence in a case like this. Direct visual documentation of what occurred on or near that vessel during the window in question. DVR systems record what is in front of the lens in real time, store it on a physical drive, and retain it until either the storage capacity cycles or a deliberate deletion occurs. If footage was erased, forensic recovery tools exist to determine when that erasure occurred, and sometimes what was erased. That determination is currently being made in a laboratory. Now, the Starlink system. This is the piece of evidence that competitors have mentioned but not fully explained. Starlink does not store data only on the physical device it connects through. Every session, every connection, every data packet transmitted through a Starlink terminal is logged on SpaceX's own servers. Those servers are not on the boat. They cannot be touched by anything that happens on the water. Not a deletion, not a wipe, not a device thrown overboard. They are maintained independently, time-stamped, and fully accessible to law enforcement through a formal legal process directed at SpaceX as the service provider. What that log contains, for the night of April 4th into the morning of April 5th, is a record of every device that connected to that satellite terminal. Every session that opened and closed, every data transmission that passed through it during that window. If a device was online, sending a message, loading a page, receiving a notification, that activity is in the Starlink server log. Independently of what happened to the physical device afterward, Brian confirmed his phone was on him that night, in his own voice, on a call he did not know was being recorded. He said it could only make calls over Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi on a vessel in the Sea of Abaco means Starlink, which means any communication that phone made or received during those 8.5 hours went through the Starlink terminal, which means it is in the server log. The server has its own record, and the U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service has the legal authority to compel SpaceX to produce it. Jennifer Coffindaffer told News Nation explicitly, speaking from federal investigative experience, that the Starlink data, if obtained and cross-referenced with device activity logs, is capable of placing a specific device in a specific location, doing a specific thing at a specific time on the night in question. That is not circumstantial evidence. That is time-stamped server data from a system that had no awareness of and no stake in what happened on that water. The Starlink server log cannot be explained away. It is not a human account. It is not a recollection. It is not something that changes under questioning or gets reframed through an attorney's public statement. It is a machine record of machine activity, preserved on a machine that was nowhere near the Sea of Abaco on the night of April 4th, 2026. Whatever was happening on that satellite network during the hours Brian was allegedly paddling through the dark, that is now in the hands of investigators. They have it. They are reading it. And the account Brian gave at the edge of that boatyard is either consistent with what those logs show, or it is not. There is a detail in this case that has received less public attention than it deserves. On the night of April 4th, 2026, another sailboat was anchored in Lanyard Bay, the same anchorage where the Soulmate was moored. Someone was aboard it, close enough to the Soulmate to have potentially seen or heard what happened on or near that vessel during the relevant hours. The U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service has made a public request for that individual to come forward. As of the most recent confirmed reporting, they have not. Their silence is not simply a gap in the witness record. It is a documented gap, one that investigators are acutely aware of, and one that maritime traffic logs from the area may partially address independently of that person's cooperation. The AIS, Automatic Identification System, used by vessels operating in those waters, generates positional data that is logged independently of the vessel's crew. Investigators with access to those records can potentially reconstruct who was in that anchorage, where they were positioned, and what the vessel movement patterns were during the relevant window, with or without a voluntary statement from the occupants. The charter captain who retraced the dinghy route for Fox News Digital, Mona Lynn, provided geographic context about the specific waters involved. The channel between the cays ranges from 4 feet to approximately 10 feet at high tide. The channel sees regular boat traffic described as consistently active. Nearby is Tahiti Beach. Nearby is a floating sandbar bar. Lanyard Bay is a known, regularly trafficked anchorage. This was not a remote, isolated stretch of open ocean. This was a channel that people moved through regularly, including after dark. The silence on that water, no flares answered, no vessel flagged, no mayday received, is a detail that sits alongside the AIS data and the witness on the anchored sailboat, and forms a picture that the investigation is still assembling. Someone in that bay that night may know exactly what happened. The Coast Guard has asked them to come forward. The investigation has other ways of reaching the same information, and the longer that silence holds, the more the other evidence carries the weight of answering what it conceals. When Brian Hooker boarded a flight back to Michigan on April 14, 2026, he was moving away from the jurisdiction where the investigation was based. Two women were already moving in the opposite direction. Carly Ellsbury launched a GoFundMe to support the continued search for her mother. She traveled to the Bahamas with her boyfriend. She boarded the Soulmate, the vessel her mother had lived on, named after what a marriage was supposed to be. She told News Nation's Jesse Weber that standing in that space hit her harder than she had expected, that it felt surreal to stand where her mother had lived. She retrieved 3 things before she left: a headband, a picture frame, and the necklace with an L charm that Lynette always wore. She flew home wearing it around her own neck. Darlene Hamlet is 75 years old. When she heard her daughter was missing, she drove 6 hours to the Bahamian consulate in Miami. She secured a passport. For the first time, she flew to the Bahamas, a grandmother moving as fast as any bureaucratic process would allow toward the place where her daughter had vanished. Not waiting for investigators to bring information to her, going directly toward the source of it. Carly has appeared on CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, and News Nation. She has not stopped speaking. She has not made claims she cannot source. She has presented what she witnessed across 25 years. What she was told in a voicemail, what she heard in a phone call she described as monotone and relaxed, and what she knows, not as an investigator, but as a daughter, about the relationship between the woman she grew up watching and the man she grew up knowing. She said her mother had been threatened with being thrown overboard. She said that, with her name attached, on the record, in a case where the specific circumstance of her mother's death involves water. Darlene has spoken about her daughter in terms that are neither clinical nor detached. She has spoken about her with the specificity of someone who knew her across 55 years and is not prepared to reduce her to a case summary. 2 women, one still in Michigan wearing her mother's necklace, one who drove 6 hours to a consulate when she was 75 years old and had never needed a passport before. Both of them insisting that Lynette Ruth Hooker remains a person, not just a file, and that the investigation does not lose sight of that. Visibility in an active missing persons case with no charge filed and no body recovered is not passive, it is pressure. And these 2 women have maintained that pressure without pause since the moment the first call came in. As of the most recent confirmed reporting, the Royal Bahamas Police Force investigation remains open. The U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service and FBI are active. Brian Hooker remains in Michigan under legal representation. He has not been charged. He has not been cleared. He remains, in the formal language of the RBPF, a confirmed suspect in an active investigation. Brian's attorney, Crystal Marie Hauer, has stated publicly that there is absolutely no evidence supporting any allegation against her client and asked the public to extend him the benefit of the doubt. That is the legal posture of his defense, stated on the record. It carries the weight of a stated position, not a concluded outcome, because the forensic results from the seized devices have not been made public. Here is what the investigation currently has: a one-way ticket purchased and never used, private messages to a close friend, "It was real bad, I can't be out there with him," a separation in January 2024, a reconciliation, 14 more months on the water, a last social media post on March 29th, and then April 4th. A watch found on a vessel that Brian's account requires Lynette to have never reached. A navigation screenshot that Brian created and distributed, showing a route that ends halfway across the crossing. 2 different directions, shore and sailboat, given to 2 different people about the same event on the same night. A recorded call Brian did not know existed, in which he confirmed his phone was on him during the entire 8.5 hours. A Starlink satellite system whose server logs are held by SpaceX, independently, on servers no one on that boat could ever reach or delete. A DVR whose footage, intact or erased, is currently being processed by forensic technicians in a federal laboratory. A child abuse referral from 2005. A domestic call from 2015. 2 incidents, 2 different Michigan jurisdictions, 2 sets of documents in the public record. A daughter who said her mother was threatened with being thrown overboard. A mother who drove 6 hours to a consulate. A witness in an anchored sailboat in Annetts Bay who has not come forward. That is what this investigation is carrying. That is the documented record, stated flat, without editorial addition, in the order in which it was assembled. Every item in that list is sourced. Every item is verified. Every item is part of a legal and forensic process that is still in motion. In the weeks before April 4th, 2026, Lynette Hooker did something specific and deliberate. She purchased a one-way airline ticket. Destination, Michigan. One direction, no return. She had done something like this before. In January 2024, she told a close friend she was leaving and not going back. That time, she went back. The separation lasted weeks. The reconciliation brought her back to the water, back to the soulmate, back to 14 more months of life, documented on a YouTube channel that showed the version of things you show the world. The private messages told a different version. The private messages said it was real bad. The private messages said she could not be out there with him. And then, in the final weeks, she bought the ticket. One way, home, Michigan. She never used it. Lynette Ruth Hooker was 55 years old. She grew up on the water. She understood the ocean. She had a daughter who has not stopped speaking her name since the phone rang 24 hours after she vanished. She had a mother who drove 6 hours to a consulate and flew to the Bahamas at 75. She had close friends she trusted with the things she could not say publicly. She had plans she documented in a ticket that points in one direction and one direction only. She left behind a watch on a vessel Brian says she never reached. She left behind a satellite log Brian cannot touch. She left behind a DVR whose contents a forensic laboratory is reading right now. She left behind private messages that are now evidence. She left behind a daughter who is wearing her necklace. And she left behind a ticket. One way, home, never used. That ticket is the clearest statement Lynette Hooker ever made about what she intended to do next. It is the documented record of a decision, a direction, a plan. What happened to that plan is what 2 governments, 1 federal laboratory, and a Starlink server log are now in the process of answering. If you have any information about the disappearance of Lynette Hooker, contact the Royal Bahamas Police Force at 919, the U.S. Coast Guard at 305-415-6800000, or the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Tips are anonymous. The investigation is active. The case is open. Lynette Hooker deserves to be found, and the one-way ticket she purchased and never used is the reason this investigation will not stop until it answers what happened to her on the night of April 4th, 2026.